Hey guys, what's going on? So you guys have really liked my talent videos so far. I thought you might not like how long they were, but everyone really enjoyed how I talk things through. One thing that I did get requested on is even talk about the talents that you don't get and tell why you don't get them. So this one's going to be on PvP, and this is going to be in Phase 1 PvP, okay? So this will be at the very beginning of the game. It's just going to be World PvP, so this is the build for that. This will carry you through to Phase 2 PvP as well. And then by the end of Phase 2 or Phase 3, this build will still be good, but you might want to consider a few other builds at that time as well. So let's get right into it. Now, looking at the Druid talent points here, we have Balance, Feral, and Restoration. We are going to be assuming that you're healing in PvE, so we want to make a build that still allows you to competently heal in, dungeons and Molten Core. So we're going to go with Heart of the Wild NS. That is going to be our PvP build for Phase 1. And the reason why we want to pick up this build is because in Phase 1, mana is the biggest issue that you will face in PvP. Heart of the Wild allows us to get 20% on our base intellect, which is really, really, really strong. So it's going to give us a larger mana pool, and this will also allow us to pick up NS, or Nature Swiftness, for that big heal that it provides. So let's get right into it. We're going to go into Ferocity. This one's just a must. It's 5 rage and energy off of some of our biggest abilities, so it's just a no-brainer here. Everyone really needs to pick this up. Feral Aggression, the reason why I don't worry about Feral Aggression is because we rarely get enough combo points in PvP to do a Ferocious Bite, and the attack power reduction in Demoralizing Roar isn't worth the 5 points. Our Demoralizing Roar already is weaker than Warrior's Shout, so Demoralizing Roar already is kind of weak, and then just buffing it with this talent point is not really worth the 5 points. So that's why we're staying away from Feral Aggression. Now we're getting down into the second tier of Feral. So we have Brutal Impact. We want 2 points into that. This one's just a must. We use Pounce pretty much every single opener unless the target is like drinking and sitting down, and we can get a Ravage crit for sure. Other than that, we want to open with Pounce almost every single time. It allows us to get some of our bleeds up, has a little bit of opening time for us, and this is really good since Cat Form doesn't have any other types of CC, so Pounce is where it's at. Okay, and now at this point, it's really up to you. Thick Hide is what I prefer, okay? A lot of people have messaged me about how, the mitigation you get from the armor is so little. It's maybe, 1 to 3% damage mitigation at max level. And so it's not really worth it for a lot of people. But for me, I just always take 3 points into Thick Hide. I have never ran into issues with improved stealth being necessary. Even in Ultric Valley, sneaking past the guards, I've never needed improved stealth. I don't get seen out. I know kind of where to go. And I always try and approach enemies from behind, which doesn't matter about your stealth and at that point. That's why I don't take Feral Instinct. Now, if you choose to use a spec for PvE as well, which you probably will because you won't be able to afford to respec so often, and you plan on tanking at all, I would definitely pick up Feral Instinct. I don't tank in PvE, like hardly ever, maybe a few times. I'm almost always healing, so this is why I won't pick up Feral Instinct. But if you plan to tank at all, that threat is very, very important, so definitely take it if you're going to tank. So for now, I'm just putting 3 into Thick Hide because that's how I personally like to play Druid. Okay, now moving into Tier 3. Sharpened Claws we really want because we want to pick up Blood Frenzy in the Tier 4 list. And then also 6% crit in Bear and Cat is amazing, so it's pretty much a must. Again, Feline Swiftness, it's a must. We need that for PvP. Feral Charge, a must for PvP. So with Tier 3, there's no really question about what is good for that tier. We just want to pick them all up. Okay, and that takes us into Tier 4. So here's a big one. If you plan to tank and you're going to use this in PvE, I would pick up Primal Fury. It's your tank version of Blood Frenzy. You don't spend very much time in cat form, so Blood Frenzy isn't really a must. Blood Frenzy will help you out more in PvE. So if you want to go out and farm solo content, finish some quests up at level 60, go farm every once in a while with cat form, then Blood Frenzy is really, really nice. It's not going to impact you as much in PvP as you may think, because your opener is going to be, in cat form. You're going to get maybe 2 or 3 combo points and then spend it, and then you're out of the form for probably the rest of the fight, bar a few encounters you might have. So we're going to pick up Blood Frenzy, but if you plan to tank, definitely pick up Primal Fury. Okay, now Predatory Strikes. This one's obviously really, really good on its own, but it allows us to get into Heart of the Wild, so it's a must. Now, Improved Shred. This is, again, a playstyle thing. I never pick up Improved Shred because I don't really stay in cat form very much. I don't shred often. When I'm opening with cat form, I'm putting on my bleeds and then I'm getting out of cat form, and then I kind of play more in bear form. But some druids enjoy playing more in cat form, and if you do plan to playing cat form very much and you also want it for PvE, then this might be a talent point that you're looking towards. But for me, I don't take it. So that moves us down to the 5th tier, which is Fairy Fire for Feral, which obviously is a must. That's just like almost mandatory for you, especially if you're tanking it. It allows you to pull really easy. The armor reduction is super nice. And so that one's a must. Then Savage Fury, also a must, 10% and then to 20% increased damage from some of our main feral abilities is also very, very needed. So at this point, this takes us to where we need to put some more points into the higher up tiers. So we have Heart of the Wild that unlocks at 25 points spent, and so we've only spent 24, so we need to put a point somewhere else. I personally go with another point into Thick Hide, but you could put it into Improved Shred, or you could increase your threat again even more in Bear, which I would do that if you're tanking. Definitely put it into Feral Instinct. So I'm going to go with Thick Hide though, for me personally. Okay, Heart of the Wild, no question. Just putting 5 points in it. If you are a Night Elf, we'll come back to this talent point and talk about it at the end. But for me as a Tauren and my playstyle, I go 5 out of 5. So now we're done in Feral. That puts us at 30 points or 29, depending on if you're, if you're going to pick up Nature's Grasp, which we'll talk about in a minute. So this moves us over to the Restoration Tree. Now, with having Feral Charge and so many points into Feral, we need to pick up Furor. Okay, it's very, very important to pick up Furor. Now, raid leaders are going to want you to have improved Mark of the Wild. However, there are many druids that solely play PvE. They don't really have any focus in PvP, and they don't really want to PvE or PvP, excuse me. So if you know a druid in your guild that is like that, and you can get by with having him pick up, him or her pick up Mark of the Wild, then have them do that. And then what you do is kind of to, thank them for basically being the buffer. I oftentimes would give my druid that did that in my raid, I'd give them some consumes. So I might give them a stack of Nightfin soup, or you could offer to pay for their reagent costs, just basically things like that to kind of say thank you for them having to spend all the time buffing. So at this point, we're going to pick up Furor because we're hoping that you can get someone to take Improved Mark of the Wild. Now, this opens up tier 2. So we're picking up 5 into Healing Touch. This is obviously really good for when we're wanting to heal in PvE, but then also just opening us for Nature Swiftness down the road, which obviously is important. So the reason why we don't pick up Nature's Focus is we have to spend so many points to make it worthwhile. And then also with the way Druid plays and how much you're kiting and using instant heals, you shouldn't really have to worry about the pushback from heals that much. Now it is kind of annoying, but I've never put any points into Nature's Focus because I always just try and War Stomp Root, or if you're a Night Elf, you try and get someone off you with Nature's Grasp, things like that, basically to get away from your target. So no points into that, but that is the reason why. Okay, now we're moving over to Improved Enrage. Now Improved Enrage is really nice for adding a little bit of extra rage right when we enrage. And then also what this is going to help with is when we use frenzied regeneration, it allows us to just get a little bit more rage at the beginning as well. Because normally when you use frenzied regeneration, you need to kind of pool up some rage beforehand to make it worthwhile. And that's one way to do it quickly. But we're going to skip this for now and just move on to the third tier for now. Reflection is a must. 15% of your mana regeneration while you're casting is huge. There's not really any need to explain this one. It's just it's a great talent. So Insect Swarm is really, really strong. It's going to be some of our main damage that we do in PvP. And so we just want to make sure we have Insect Swarm because it's another dot, and the chance to hit reduced by 2% is nice. So now we're going to look at the subtlety talent that druids have, where it reduces the threat generated by your healing spells by 4%. No one really takes this. You should never really be taking threat off of a tank with your healing. Now this might come up every once in a while when you're healing like a DPS in like some PvE out in the world where you're just farming for something. But in general, this talent is just a no-go. Don't worry about it. You should especially druids, you should never worry about pulling a healing threat. Okay, so this means that we need to put another point into something. Obviously, like I said, I've explained Nature's Focus not being so strong, so I would put it into Improved Enrage. This allows us to get down into tier 4. So if you plan to heal a lot and you're not going to focus as much in PvP, I would get more points into Tranquil Spirit. If you're doing a lot of PvP, you're going to rely heavily on rejuvenation, and it being improved early on in the game is really, really strong. Obviously, a lot of you know that this 15% increase is on the base heal, but in phase 1 you'll have very little plus healing, so this goes a long way at the beginning. It gives you that extra bit of healing that you really need early on. So we put 3 points into that to max it out. And then we look at Tranquil Spirit, and we put the remainder of the 2 points to open us up into the next tier. So this allows us to pick up Nature Swiftness, and at this point our build is done. The Nature Swiftness is a no-brainer. It's the reason we went into balance or to the Resto Tree, and it's going to give us a huge heal on a 3-minute cooldown that allows us to live through a lot of encounters that we have in World PvP, and that's going to be a big portion of what you're doing in phase 1 and phase 2. So now, like I said, we're going to go back over and talk about Heart of the Wild. So Heart of the Wild is really strong, obviously. We know that. But some people really, really want Nature's Grasp. And if you're not a Tauren, you don't have War Stomp. War Stomp is basically the ability for us to get off a free cast of regrowth, or for us to get a free cast of roots. So with roots, this is going to allow us to root the target and get away, and it's on a short cooldown. So in my opinion, if you have War Stomp, you don't need Nature's Grasp. I'd rather have that extra point into Heart of the Wild. So, and the reason why I do that, also to explain it, is the 1 point in Nature's Grasp only gives you a 35% chance. So if it's someone with a large two-handed weapon, you're going to have them swinging at you, every 3 to 4 seconds. So the thing is you might get white hit by a warrior and they might MS you, and by then you still haven't rooted them and you might be dead at that point. So it's not as reliable as some people would hope. Now, it is good against rogues because they're dual wielding, so they're hitting you much more frequently, so the proc chance is just doubled basically, and their weapons are fast. So it's much easier to root a dual wielding class, rogues, hunters, things like that, anyone that's up in your face hitting you. So that's my reasoning behind not picking up Nature's Grasp. However, if I was playing Night Elf, I would definitely put 1 point into Nature's Grasp. There are some Taurens out there that really like to pick it up as well. And again, like I said with all this stuff before, it's all personal preference. So that's just kind of my preference and the way I build. Heart of the Wild NS. So in the description, guys, I'll leave my Heart of the Wild NS spec. I'll leave one if you're going to be tanking more in PvE. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know this was a bit long, but you guys have seemed to really enjoy these. So then once we get closer to phase 2, I will put out a guide on a balance PvP spec. The reason why we don't want to really run with anything too much into like the balance tree early on is just because of mana issues. Also, Deep Restos, kind of the same thing. Mana issues, and you're not going to be running into too many issues where you need Swift Mend, as right when you hit level 60, the damage you take is much less bursty, and the PvP is, in general, a little bit slower. So you probably won't need Swift Mend, and, you know, getting that extra mana from Heart of the Wild is really nice. So that's my take on PvP when you first hit 60 and throughout the first phase. I hope you guys liked the video. Make sure to comment if you have any questions. I try to answer as many questions as I can the first few days the video is out. And then obviously as time goes on, it's harder for me to stick up or stay up to date with all the videos and commenting on everything. But definitely appreciate your guys' feedback. I love hearing what you guys have to say about, you know, how you play your Druid or specs you like. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Take care.